Welcome to It's the Discussion for Me, the podcast where we dive deep into the issues that matter most to Black women in the sandwich generation. I'm your host, Dr. Brandy Powell, here to provide you with real talk, tools to place in your toolbox of life, and a community of support as we navigate the balancing act of faith, caring for our families, building a solid village, and making space for ourselves. Whether you're tapping in on the go or tuning in for some well-deserved me time, I'm glad you're here. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of It's the Discussion for Me. I missed y'all. What's been up? Tap in. Let me know how your month was, how you enjoyed it, what you plan to do next month. So, this was my birthday month. And I celebrated my birthday. The day after my birthday is my brother's death anniversary. So I'm very intentional about celebrating my birthday, being present in love, being with my village, being surrounded, and making sure I receive the love. And also, a person who is recovering from survivor's guilt, is important for me to see my value to my village. And so I love the way my village loved me down this month. And I'm so appreciative. A lot of times when you experience loss, you get stuck on what you don't have. And this month, I was just super appreciative of what I do have. And it's a lot. God looked out. He did his big one with my village. He did his big one with my village. And so I am grateful that he cared enough to place some amazing people in my life. And so thank you for celebrating me. But then also thank you for honoring my brother and my birthday month. So yeah. Thank you. It was also Valentine's Day. We celebrated Valentine's Day. How did that go for everybody? I personally love love. I love the romance of it all. I love the depths of love, the challenges of it. I love grief and how it just forces you to love even deeper. Now, I don't love grief itself, but I love the residuals of it. How did you enjoy your love day? And so I can get caught up in the fact of what I lost and what I don't have, which is I don't have a husband, I don't have children. And so I could get caught up in that, but I decided years ago to enjoy what I do have and be present in the moment. And so I am thankful for what I do for a career and how families and my patients are very grateful for me. I love how my village loved me down and I was able to shower them with love and love them, in jokes and fun and funny memes and just sending messages of love that day. I love how God just shows up for me through it all, good, bad, or indifferent. And so I was appreciative that day for love being present in my life because it does, like, I understand that that's just a man-made holiday, but I celebrate love every day. And so I just enjoy the extraness of that day. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you didn't, that you're able to reframe the concept of that day so that you're able to enjoy it. Okay. How was the Super Bowl for everybody? For myself, I enjoyed the halftime show. Kendrick Lamar did his big one. And I understand some people did not enjoy it, but for the ones, yeah, we understood it. We understood what he was getting at. And it was so much deeper than a beef. Like, that's cute and that was great for TV. However, it was deeper than Drake, way deeper than Drake. Kendrick gave a message to America, and he also gave a message to America. And I'll just leave it at that. And so I hope you were able to enjoy it. But even if you didn't get it or you don't enjoy Kendrick's music, you have to respect his artistry. And so I'm just super happy for him being an underdog for so many years, not respected. I mean, he was respected, but not celebrated. And so for him to get his flowers during this time,
I celebrate all of that and what he means to my city, LA. We are like up, but also what he means to the community and what he means to culture. And so I'm glad that he was able to have that platform and to see where it goes. I'm definitely at the concert, period. It is going to be a time. Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Also, okay, so the end out the month yesterday. So I've been doing this thing where I take myself out. I don't mind going out in this world by myself. I've been intentional about taking myself out on dates. So usually when I would go out, it would be like to a community event or something of that nature. But I want to start taking myself out like to eat and doing more intimate things for myself. And so yesterday I took myself out to eat. I spent money on me and because she worked it. And then I also went to this grief event. I don't even know how to describe it. Okay, let me just go into it. So it's called We Go on Tour. And their kind of hashtag is grief is a language. When I say this was such a vibe, OMG. If you're on IG, please go follow them. They create language around grief that is so refreshing. In addition to that, a lot of times grief is looked at as a journey. And so with a journey, you have a beginning and an end. But with grief, it never ends. And so they also spoke to things about grief that you wish you would have known prior to going into it. And people were able to kind of share with the audience those things. And so for me, one thing about grief, one, I always talk about this. If you are a believer, you can question God. He is not fragile. He is not going to run. He is not going to cast you away because you are upset or angry. Your big emotions are safe with God. He is a safe space for that. He created you, so why wouldn't he? He knows. So go to him. Feel open to go to him about that. Another thing about grief that I feel like people didn't let me know or warn me about was the concept of making new memories. And so, because grief has taught me so much about love, that's another thing. I have learned to love and to love well. I have learned to be loved, like to receive love and to receive it well because of grief and processing through it. The thing that I miss is that I want to take that love and love the people that actually their absence taught me the love. I want to love my mom with this new love. I want to love my dad with this new love. I want to love my brother with this new love and I can't. And it's so like they deserve it. They deserve this version of me. But I do carry them I do carry them as I go out into the world. And as I love, I know that it's because of their absence, but also their presence, what they meant to me beforehand. And also the idea of you can't make new memories. And so when like I have my niece and she's graduating from high school, she got accepted to her top college. These are things that I know my mom and dad, and obviously her dad, would have been elated. And so there's this thing of like enjoying that, but also grieving the fact that they're not there to experience it or you can hypothetically say, oh, I think he would have said this or she would have done this. Oh, my mom definitely would have been there, but you just don't have that experience. And so that's something that I wish people would know about grief. But it was such a great event. They had a film. So it's very artsy. They had a film, they had music, they had a guy who had a conversation, like a storytelling, a conversation where we were giving back and forth. They even had music where we kind of sung along to different songs that, like the playlist of grief. And they had a comedian as well. It was such an experience. And so if you have the opportunity, please check them out. They were in LA, so the Inglewood actually, but I believe they're coming to San Francisco next, Arizona. If those are your areas, go check it out. It was such a good vibe. But follow them on social media because they definitely have great content and help have healthy conversations surrounding grief. So that's how I ended my month. And so tap in. Let me know how y'all celebrated February and also what you plan to celebrate, how you plan to celebrate March. I would love to meet up with some of you guys at some events and just enjoy. Use the Google form. I keep telling y'all, use the Google form. And y'all are. I appreciate y'all feedback and stories and all that. We're going to get to some of that a little later, but I definitely appreciate your participation in this podcast because this is about us. Okay. So now let's move on to our next segment. How God came for me. And when I say that jokingly, but also for real. Like, I understand that love isn't of like agreeance and us always being in on the same line. I know that when he comes for me and it feels like he's coming for me, it's only out of love. And so when I'm able to trace God back to a lot of things every day. I'm looking for him. So even in conversations, things that I see on social media, things that I encounter in life, I'm always tracing it back to God. And how does this tell me more about God and Jesus and all of the things? Because that's the reality of it. I need to be able to find him any and everywhere that I go. So I was on social media, I was on TikTok, and there was this cute video of this little boy, and he was having a conversation with his sister. His mom was recording, his older sister. And so they have the same mother, different fathers. And his grievance was with his sister, and he wanted a stepdad. I want a stepdad. Like, I don't understand. Mommy, get me a stepdad. And she's like, I'm with your father. Kid, I'm with your father. And he's like, I understand. But pointing to his sister and saying, she has my dad and her dad. I only have my dad. And she's like, okay, you should be happy that you have your dad. He's like, but I want a stepdad. Give me a stepdad. So he is really upset. And it reminded me of a similar conversation I had with my parents growing up. Now, my mother worked in the city of Watts. Yes, it's a city. If you look it up, it's going to say it's not a city, but those that know, Watts is Watts City, period. She worked there. So because of that, and because she knew my mouth, I was always close to her. She knew she could. My brother got bussed off to the valley and stuff for school. Not this one, because she knew she had to be very close to me and snatch me up when she needed to. So I attended their daycare. And then when I attended private school, I would get picked up and bussed over to their after school program. After the after school program, so we would have fun and interact with each other and all of the things. And then after that, we would go drop them off. So I would go with the bus driver sometime because my mother was still working, and I would go with them to drop off the kids. And so what I saw was a group of kids getting off the bus and going to the local housing projects. And so they would have various stops around the city, but I just really love that it was like 10 kids that would hop off the bus to get off at one of the projects. And I was like, man, I was so like, oh, they get to play and they're playing and running and laughing. And I was like, man, I want that. I want to be able to do that every day. So I remember going home and having a conversation with my dad and my mom. Like, we would have weekly kind of family meetings. And I was like, Daddy, can we move to the projects? The look on his face was like, what? I was like, yeah, can we move to the projects? And I could see in that moment where he could have been offended. He could have even resulted in trying to lessen that community, but he didn't. He was like, so why? Why do you want to move to the projects? And I was like, well, I see my friends. They get to go off. They get to have all this fun. You know, we've already had fun at the after school program. And then afterwards, they get to continue to play with each other. And that is crazy. And so what he realized was that at that time, my brother was off at college living his best life. Best life, okay? If you know, you know. And I was pretty much the only child for that time period. And then my parents were older, so they were my besties. Like, I had cousins, and obviously we would hang out on the weekend, but they never allowed us to attend school together, so it wasn't like we spent the week with one another. So it was one of those things where he saw that the actual need, my actual desire was for more community. And so he was like, okay, I'll look into it, kid. So fast forward, I was like, what? I laughed so hard. Like, we laughed about the conversation. But two things, the Holy Spirit with both of those stories, the video of the little boy and the story of myself, the two messages that I received was, one, lead with curiosity and grace when humans ask for something, and don't be so easily offended. Right? Lead with curiosity. When my dad heard that, he could have been very offended. He could have scolded me, let me know that he did this, this, and this, and not have heard my true desires. And so he led with curiosity. He led with grace and truly saw my desire was for more community, that I wanted. You know, I played with my friends by my home, but we would get home so late. And so it was like, and then my mom, like, I'm like, you my bestie, but you out here having other best friends. Like, how does this work? Like, this don't even work for me. And you want to close the door and not let me in your room when you talking to your friends. Like, I'm your bestie. So when he noticed that, he was like, okay, so she needs more community. And so I started to get into like after school programs and swimming classes and things of that nature, gymnastics, like different areas to kind of help with that. So he understood his child, and he led with curiosity and grace. And so that's a lot of times when we are dealing with other humans and we see this kind of either questioning of us or this resistance or this big emotion. Dig deeper, lead with curiosity, or you see something that's super judgmental or whatever the case may. Lead with curiosity, and you get to see like, oh, wait a minute, it's deeper than that. Oh, that's a childhood wound, or that's a trigger, or this person isn't processing this. It's actually, you know, frustration or abandonment, whatever, avoidance. And this is what the true thing is versus judging and then becoming offended and all of the things. So that was one message. The second one was that in that moment, I didn't understand the provision that my father had provided for me, and that I was actually truly blessed. Both individuals, and if you lived in projects, you were blessed as well. But I didn't understand the sacrifice that my father had made in order for me to have what I did. And so we may not understand what the provision of God looks like, what favor looks like in this season. We may not see it now, especially if the lesson is still in session. But in retrospect, I'm grateful that my parents purchased a home and I grew up the way that I did. I'm learning from this to choose. I have to choose to be grateful in the now and have gratitude, because even if it doesn't make sense to me now, I trust God and I have enough stake in this relationship to see him work out various seasons that I'm losing. I'm absolutely losing here. I'm lonely, whatever the case is, and then him work it out. And so I have enough stake in the game to trust him in these seasons where it just doesn't make sense. And the way he operates is that in one season you like, oh, I've been through this before, and you will see that problem again. And what he's teaching you is not to trust even the history you have with him. Trust him. Trust God. And so those are the two lessons that I took away from that. And hopefully it resonates with someone else out there. Because our Father, He be coming for us, but it be all out of love. All out of love. Okay, let's tap into the book. Let's tap in. When faith disappoints, the gap between what we believe and what we experience. We read for this month chapter 2 and 3. 2 was on personhood, 3 was on peace. And so I won't go into the book because some of you guys possibly are reading and catching up. And some of you may have not even started the book. So I don't want to necessarily give you what it is about. I will, however, express what spoke and resonated to me. For the chapter on personhood, a lot of times, even from history or your personal experience, you can feel as if you are either less than or okay, so you're feeling like you're less than. And then some people might even look at you like, oh, you went or you lived in this area, so you must be X, Y, and Z, or treat you as if you're less than. They might dehumanize you, right? Make you less than. But then the other side of that, which kind of comes out as a result of being dehumanized, is a group of people deifying themselves and making themselves gods. And so you both are wrong. Both don't solve the problem. The problem is a lack of truth. And so you saw that, and she speaks of it in the book. You see that with Adam and Eve, where the enemy was able to come in and tempt them with a false truth about their identity. And so when we are in the world, it's important for us to have our identity based in some type of truth, so that when a person tries to come and either dehumanize you and make you feel less than, you are able to stand on what is true about you. And when you feel possibly less than, or you're covering up for something, or you don't feel sufficient enough and you start to make yourself superior, or more so, you see that with, people claiming to be gods, or you see it in like white supremacy and how that kind of played out. In those instances, you see this idea of trying to make yourself bigger than what you truly are. And again, that is not healthy. The healthy is operating in truth. And so I know that I'm that girl, but I'm not better than anyone in this world, right? So it's okay to have the truth of who you are and realizing that we're all made in God's image. We're all versions of Him and His personhood in this world. And so we're image bearers. And so when I or someone in the world runs me low, I need to assert myself. They're humans. They're humans having a human experience, and their image barriers of God, whether they know Him or claim Him as Father or not. I am to have this level of respect for their humanhood. Now, I'm not a pushover, and we definitely address what we need to address. In addition, I appreciate being Black. I appreciate being a woman. I don't want to be anything else because this is what God saw fit for me. I advocate for both. And I will continue to. However, I don't put myself in a place of superiority, because that's not truth. I am equal in the eyes of God. I am equal to these individuals, and that is the truth. Now, what I have experienced is when you are different and when you have a different expression in a certain community, people tend to try to make you conform. And that is a form of this as well. I know that I am different when it comes to Christianity and my expression of it. what I believe to be true is the same. We read the same Bible, believe the same truths, all of the things. I just don't feel a need to hide or cover up the truth of who I am, where a lot of people feel that they do. And what I've noticed is that my ability to be authentic and express that freedom to rubs people the wrong way. And so with those two lessons we talked about earlier, I could be offended, right? I could feel, dang, why or they throwing these subliminals my way. I could, but then I lead with curiosity and I realize that if you don't have the freedom to be who you are, then your idea of or seeing someone so free in the same space challenges you. It upsets you. It makes you feel like, oh no, they have to conform and they have to, in a sense, kill their light, dim their light to fit in, because this is what we do over here, versus to challenge that and say, well, I'm just different. It doesn't make me demonic. It doesn't make me less than. It doesn't make me less of a child of God. I am different. I choose to express this differently. And this is my calling. Not to say that somebody else, like, you got to be like me. No, be who you are called to be. But understand that you're different, whatever your different is. Just because it's different doesn't make it demonic. Now, there are things that are wrong, and you know what those things are, but you know what I'm talking about. My different and various people's different is not demonic. And also understanding that when you are authentically yourself and able to freely be yourself because you understand the love of the Lord and his grace, and also that freedom of him making you who you are, and you have your personal conversations with God and how he tells you to move. You've got to be confident enough and trust God in those moments and not dim your light and not fall back and stand firm on who you are, and understand that who is looking for you and who needs to see you in order to see God, who God is using you as a vessel for his love, needs to see it that way. And so don't dim your light, but also don't condemn those people. They're just doing what they have been conformed to do. So that's what I took away from the personhood chapter. And so I just would encourage you to find who you are. Write it out if you need to. Put it around the house, put it in your notes on your phone. Who are you? And base it in truth, in the Bible, in truth. And understand that the expression of that truth will look different from person to person. What does the love of God look like? I've never been loved the same by one person, like two different people. I've been loved differently by each individual. And so if there is variety in love, in how it is expressed, in how God even loves us, then there are different expressions of the truth. And not saying, because people could take this all the way wrong. I'm saying not expressions as in different from what the word says, right? Because you got to stay in truth. But if I am loving you and it is different, it is okay for it to be different because it is love. And I'll leave it there. So yes, make sure that you know who you are, define who you are, and don't compare yourself to other people. Comparison is the thief of joy, but in the book, she speaks about how it also being a thief of personhood. Comparing yourself and also having these false identities based in things that are tangible and don't have any substance. Like if you are defined by your title, if you are defined by being a mother, a father, a parent, a aunt, if you're defined by your job and what you do, these are things that are tangible and that will change. And so you have to find your identity. And ultimately, your identity is being an image bearer of God. And for me, a child of God. And so those are the things those are the two that I hang on to, because I've been a daughter, I've been a sibling, and those things have been snatched away. And now, who are you? Right? And so in that I learned that beyond my relational experiences with various people, I'm just an expression of God's love to these people. And if that relationship ends or it changes, I'm not in possession of it. I allow it to be, right? Because I know who I am and I know God's love is going to continue to find me, whether it's through them or someone else. And vice versa. I don't feel like, oh, they need to be loved by me. They don't. If God is taking me one way and them the other way, and then I don't have to put a negative spin on it or make sense of it. It just is. And that person you wish well. And I hope they wish me well as well. So that's what I took away from that. The next chapter was on peace. And I often say, like, the first commandment, or not the first commandment, the greatest commandment, where God speaks of receive his love and then love others as yourself, is like a formula, a cheat code to everything that he calls us to do. So when you look at his forgiveness and you look at different aspects of what it means to be a child of God, you can use that same thing. So for peace, she speaks of this threefold peace: inner peace, peace with God, and peace with other people. And it's that formula that keeps showing up, even with forgiveness, right? In order for you to forgive yourself, you got to receive that forgiveness from God and understand that he's forgiving you. Okay, cool. If he's forgiven me, then I could forgive myself. And then when you understand that, like, okay, in the Good Samaritan and that story, I'm not to be the good Samaritan. I am to show people and point them to God. So the idea is not for me to judge somebody else and understand that I was in that position as well. It's not to judge them, but to show them the person that changed me, that grace saved me. I'm going to show you who he is and not have to be there for you or condemn you or judge you, or no, I'm going to show you the person that, and then I'm going to tell you what he said, good, bad, or indifferent, whether you receive it or not. I'm going to tell you what he said. So in this peace chapter, she speaks about it. You only get peace if you receive God's peace, the peace that he has given you. And so we want to make sure that we're tapping into that and surrendering to him and the truth of who he is and what his word says to be true. Sometimes we just have to surrender in situations and not hold on to things or try to figure it out. Sometimes it just is what it is. And in seasons when we are constantly trying to figure it out or be in control, we forfeit our peace. And so I would encourage people to make sure that they are learning about what God says to be true about them, identity, what he says that his promises to us are, and then just standing on that to have conversations with him. That's what prayer is, having conversations. If you don't know how to pray, that's a lie. Have a conversation as if he was sitting right in front of you, and have a conversation with him. Ask questions. Let him know how your day was, what you're experiencing, how you don't understand something, but you trust him. And I promise you, he will get the information to you. When we are dealing with others, it requires forgiveness. It requires forgiveness. And so when we're dealing with one another, it's important to understand how forgiven we were. Like, we were forgiven. We were loved, and it's important to pass that on to other people. And it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. And sometimes forgiveness does not mean a rekindling of a relationship, but it is a peace that should come when you see that person. You might see them, and if you feel the tension again, you might not have forgiven them all the way, and you might want to continue to work at it. And it's having those difficult conversations with God and understanding, like, why is this person not receiving their vengeance? But if I receive vengeance for everything that I did wrong, like, thank you for your grace. we want to receive the grace and mercy all day, every day. But when it comes to other people, we want, no, run that vengeance now. And it just doesn't work that way. You don't know what their life is composed of and the things that they're truly dealing with. And so in that, it's like, I just want to release it. Forgiveness is truly for me. It gives me peace, because not only did you come in my life and cause me harm, but now I'm spending this time having to deal with this forgiveness. And so you feel like that person should pay for all of that. And it's like, no, what are you learning in that? What could you be learning in those moments? And understanding that you don't get all that you deserve because of grace. And it's not that it doesn't get paid for. It got paid for on the cross. So be grateful there. Be thankful there. Put your attention there. Find peace there. And I get it. Forgiveness is difficult. I had a person who I was upset with. And it's crazy because that person probably doesn't even know that I had a personal issue with them. It was dealing with one of my parents' death. To the point I was done with that individual. You couldn't tell that today. And it's a genuine love for this person. But I had to work through some things. And it was mostly my stuff that I needed to release, things and ideas that I needed to process through. Did their actions trigger it? Yes. Did I need to forgive them? Yes. However, it was stuff for me. And so I look at various situations like that. And again, opportunities and chances that I haven't got the vengeance for, right? And so I'm grateful for his grace. And so I want to be able to extend it out to other people and understand and and land on forgiveness as quick, and even work on, and which I have been, just not even getting offended. I don't even want to get offended. Like, help me there, Lord. Because you got to think, Jesus walked this earth perfect, and knowing that the person next to him was crooked and all the things, yet he still was able to develop relationship with them and walk with them, love on them, and not have this superiority complex, not dehumanize people. So if he could do it, we definitely could do it. Or at least tap into it. So, yes. So it speaks about that. And then it also spoke about inner peace and having the ability to find peace within yourself. And a lot of times when we are dealing with self or even other people, we tend to avoid the difficult conversations. We'll avoid that person, avoid all spaces, all things dealing with that person. That's not peace. Find that inner peace. Find peace with that situation, so you could go to those places and go to those areas. And if you see that person, it's all good. They don't faze you. Because that's a human having their a spirit having their human experience, and same for you. And keep going, but don't avoid the difficult conversations. Avoid becoming numb to things. Avoid trying to pacify a situation. If you are struggling with abandonment, if you are struggling with identity, if you are struggling with not feeling enough, don't avoid it, because what you do is you overeat. You use drugs, alcohol, people, sex. You do all of these things to cover it up. But what is the deeper root of this? And instead of avoiding it, let me take it head on and ask myself these hard, difficult questions. So yeah, so that is it about that. I hope you guys are enjoying the book. All right, y'all. Well, we are done. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Until the next time.
Thank you for checking out ITD FM Podcast. I hope you leave feeling seen and heard. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to the ones you love and stood on business about. That's not just your children, but the entire world. I pray I have stewarded well the opportunity of access to their ear gates. I hope something today was said that not only resonates with them, but also challenges them to act. Thank you, God. Amen. Until the next episode.